Test, 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 test. Hello.
Hello, Joe.
Okay. Tommy, have you got the final agenda? I saw you wrote earlier that you were putting it together at your computer. Yes, it is. Could you tell us what the first item is on the agenda? We'll go ahead and do that tech check before we move forward because I don't want to lose the. I don't want to not have that. So I will avoid gaveling us in until we can confirm. Yeah. Oh, you know what I need is a gavel.
Joe is a little bit quiet in the stream.
Even when I'm yelling about needing a gavel? Ah! I'm going to keep giving you levels for your stream so you can figure out how loud I should be. I don't know. You have me all the way up. Okay, well let me I'm going to turn myself up on my preamp thing here. Am I Well, I'll turn myself up a little more. I don't want to be peaking. Am I okay? Are my levels good? Are my levels sound? Gavels?
No, you're peeking.
Yo, gavel, gavel.
I love
Gavel,
that
gavel.
show.
I've never actually seen Yo, gavel, gavel.
It's great. It's great. Do you like musical guest stars? We have Jack
I
Black, My Chemical Romance, a bunch of other people who I forget.
Wow. How custom. Your Chemical Romance, you say.
I know.
That's that. You don't get that kind of service most places.
As long
Okay.
as people can hear our Discord audio coming in through on the stream, I think we should be good to go.
Okay. In the meantime, I have also let me open up your chat so I can make sure if anybody says anything there, I can read it. That Tommy boy. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I think we are ready to call this meeting to order. Tommy is streaming and recording. I have a backup recording running on my local PC, but it's going to be visually a mess because it's not good. But we'll have the audio at least from that in an emergency situation. Okay, so we're looking over the whole thing here. We're going to start with Patreon tiers, community goals, then Minecraft server reset schedule launches. Then we're going to move on to Discord overview of channels and players wanted channel being underutilized. Additional channels, Fally had suggested a debate club channel, additional emotes some folks had recommended, and then roles and bots to manage them will be our final item. So we're going to open up with Patreon tiers and community goals. This is not something that I'm coming in here with an agenda to fix. Tommy does have an agenda. But so if anybody who wants to goes to patreon.com/joehills, you'll see we've got 8 levels right now. Poetry fan is deprecated. We're going to be phasing that out because honestly, it stresses me out on months where I feel behind on YouTube videos that I'm like, I promised people X number of mid-roll free videos a month, and I'm not getting them done. And usually that's a good pressure, but back in October when TFC passed away, and then again with all the chaos in Nashville after the Coventry shooting, or Covenant shooting, and the issues in the legislature, I like sometimes when my thoughts are disordered, uh, I need I feel like having more flexibility will help me kind of spring back faster. So I don't want to get to a point where I've, promised enough poetry fan slots that I have to be on a episode every 4 day schedule, and then I get slammed with something, and then while I'm trying to deal with that, I'm also like, oh no, how am I going to catch up? Because in order to catch up from this 4 day episode schedule, now I gotta do an episode every 2 or 3 days for a few weeks. It just puts me in this weird backlog position. So in the long term, um, it might make sense to replace the $50 a month tier that's currently sold out and will be deprecated as people. I'm not going to kick anybody off it. I appreciate the supporters who are there, and I will continue to honor those. But I think realistically, we're going to want to add like a $40 a month tier as kind of a replacement. And that kind of feels about right because we go 5, 10, 20, then jumping to 40. Anything past 40, though, like so few people are going to sign up for those that I'm not going to worry or stress about them too much. Okay, so I've just been rambling so far. But in particular, let's go back to that $40 a month price point. Is there anything that y'all see that would be like an obvious, like, hey, this would be a great $40 a month tier? Or if not, if you think of something, do we have a good place for feedback on that? Like, feedback creative is more like about the episodes and streams. Well, I don't think that this is we're not in a time pressure sensitive thing right now with this. So my general inclination here is just to say at this point, if something makes sense at some point, if something starts to make sense at $40 a month, we'll add it. But until then, I'm just gonna kind of leave that as is, because lots of people, if they want to give more than $20 a month or $10 a month tip anyway, and so I don't know that we're losing from a business standpoint. I don't know that there's any urgency to this. Does anybody in the community feel differently? Okay, that sounds like no. In terms of the overall channel goals on Patreon, do those still show up here? They used to show up here. Did I go? Oh, yeah. 26. So right now, the only channel goal we have is if we hit $3,000 a month, I'll spend more on equipment and studio upgrades. We briefly did hit that, but the person who was supporting the $500 a month level ended up banned from the community for being creepy. While we were at that level, though, I did invest a lot of that money in upgrading our audio setup, which is part of why we've been able to have Quinn in here for the guitar streams. I think that was a worthwhile studio upgrade, and so I do hope that we eventually hit that point and I can invest some money in other equipment. But like, there's nothing where I'm like, oh no, we're screwed if we don't get this tech in tomorrow. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna make sense to start setting some long-term goals. Probably, I keep saying once this COVID thing kind of evens out. I've been avoiding setting any sort of long-term goals because it's hard to have expectations when everything is changing so rapidly, in weird ways. Yeah. There's a lot of variance in like the economy right now, and in people's employment, and in opportunities for them to spend money elsewhere. So I don't, I have no idea what this trading card thing is gonna do. Realistically, the amount of money that I get from each trading card box set is a way worse split than I would get off of a YouTube or PayPal tip, right? So I don't know how much of that is going to come from the same budget for the viewers. I think it would be unrealistic to assume that there's no overlap there, but I'm because of the amount of weirdness that that's going to introduce. I mean, it might end up being a net positive for me, but it might not, and I don't. I'm basically avoiding any long-term budget planning at this point, and I'm going to be dipping into my retirement fund as needed to kind of ride this out, which hopefully won't be too much or too often, but there's, a non-zero chance that once maybe there'll be real money from these pre-orders, because everybody's like, well, Grian and Mumbo have 1 million fans, and I have no idea if any of them have money to buy a card game. Like, my parents wouldn't have bought me this as a kid, but maybe they do. So basically everything right now is so chaotic. If there's something that y'all think, well, Joe, like, you always talk about doing this, why don't you make this a goal? Like, but my kid didn't get into the middle school that would have let us, like, live somewhere permanently until she goes to college. So, like, and that would have been like one of the big things. I would have put on there, like, if we were able to, like, either buy or get a lease on a place with, like, a garage, I'd be like, okay, let's get some money to build out the garage studio, or set goals around that. But right now it's just like I'm just gonna kind of keep doing what I'm doing for another year. And well, with broad changes, like, now we have a card game, and so that's going to affect how I show up at conventions and some of the travel schedule, possibly. If the card game is a huge success, then I'm going to be trying to go out there to as many local cons as possible. Wherever, like, if you have a local convention in your area, it might be too late for them to bring in guests this year that they haven't already signed up. But if you want to go, if you've been looking for an excuse to go to a local convention in your area, like a sci-fi gaming, anything that kind of broadly overlaps with what I do, scout it out and tell me, like, hey, is it pretty cool? Would the people organizing it want to possibly have me as a guest? Because if they're willing to cover my hotel and some of my travel costs, like, I don't need to get, like, I don't expect to get paid, like, to show up at these things. I'm not Patrick Stewart, but, like, the number one thing limiting how many of them I can attend is going to be travel expenses and hotels. And some of them do have a budget for bringing in YouTubers. So, but I also don't know how much that's changed since the pandemic too. Sorry, this is a lot of me rambling. But I feel like these meetings are always just a lot of me rambling, but usually I'm too tired to notice, and I'm in that awkward, uncanny valley of I need to stop talking, and I know I need to stop talking. It's not good. Not good.
So to circle it back, I do agree that we should be having long-term goals like that to work on as a community, but I don't think we have anything urgent or pressing that would say we need to set this now. Like, we can definitely work towards something.
Well, and even if it's not urgent or pressing, if there's something where it's like, well, Joe, one thing we do have the data for is blank. Because right now, I don't have the data for where I'm going to be living in 18 months. I don't have the data for how the card game is going to sell. I don't have the data for how, like, the broader economy is impacted by coming out of COVID, inflation, that sort of stuff. So, like, I'm just kind of looking at a lot of this stuff and saying, like, you know what, we'll just keep rolling with the punches as we go. We've gotten through the first few years of the pandemic that way, and you know, if I start getting too fixated on, like, one target, because I am one of those people, if I set, like, a particular goal for myself and I'm like, this is what I have to do no matter what, I get very tunnel visiony, and I'd rather. So yeah. But like I said, that 3,000 a month, that's a nice to have, but and if we do end up with the extra revenue, I'll be definitely there's some computer hardware upgrades I was looking at making or purchase. Well, technically I want a second desktop because after watching Cleo's Nightmare this last week, oh my gosh. Like and in the long term the plan is for the second desktop to be used by Badger anyway. So or well the older of the two desktops would be Badger's gaming station for like if we wanted to do V Rising vampire co-op streams or stuff like that, you know. So we could stream from the same room with like two good computers next to each other. But in the short term, that would also be something where if I'm replacing one of the desktops every 2 years. So because I'm buying really good hardware, it's usually good enough to last 4 years. But if something goes wrong with it, having a fallback next to it on the table is fine, you know. So I figure if I get into some sort of purchasing cycle where each desktop is expected to last about 4 years, the desktop I have right now, the CPU and motherboard I bought was 3 years ago. So we're coming up on being due for having another desktop purchase, or we're kind of overdue. My volume is really low compared to Joe.
Does that help any, or does that make it worse?
I will. Let's keep talking for a minute. Misterlantz, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
Uh,
This is why we asked at the beginning of the stream. No.
yeah, I know. And that's another thing too with the immigration stuff. I've got the call with the immigration attorney this week. And yeah, and I'll have a much better idea of what to expect in terms of that and in terms of cost and the calendar and stuff. But that'll probably be my biggest single expense of this year.
Am I still low on stream? I should be. Valley said I'm like 10% of your volume. What?
Well, you told me to turn myself up.
Well, because you were quiet. That's what everyone said at the beginning of the stream. Nobody said I was quiet.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just quiet in your headphones. Maybe your monitor volume is lower than your broadcast volume for me.
Maybe. But then that doesn't explain why I was low and nobody said something earlier.
Yeah, they might have turned the whole stream up earlier. But then, I don't know. It's fine. Joe stream audio is good.
I can't really...
Why is my chat?
My sliders only go up so high.
Well, turn me down then, and then they can turn you up in their headphones.
Everybody else become quieter to account for me being really quiet. That's all we can do.
Okay. I'll be like this. Yeah. So, basically, in terms of community-wide goals financially, the goal is just survive the summer. And by the end of the summer, but when we have our next quarterly meeting in late July, early August, yeah, because let's see, it's mid-April now. Yeah, yes. So if we have our next one in like mid-July to early or mid to late July, early August, by then I feel like we should have a pretty good trajectory of where the card game stuff is. We should know the immigration stuff should be filed by then, and even if we're in a hurry up and wait situation there, you know, I'll know what that looks like. I still haven't talked to my landlord about our current lease and renewing it, so I don't know yet how that's gonna go. There's a bunch of stuff that like we'll have a lot more data then, and I'm a lot more confident about setting long-term goals at that stage. So this is a long way of saying we're gonna come back to it. Don't worry. Okay.
To be determined.
So, does anybody else have anything on this agenda item before we move on? Okay, I will. That sounds like nobody. So, thank y'all. Minecraft server reset schedules and launches. Scheduled time for servers to go through resets. Tommy, you got some stuff here. ToxxicGlitter's modded SMP in June. Tell us about that.
Oh, are we skipping the reset thing?
Wait, no, wait. Is reset schedule? Is that a header for?
It's like a subcategory kind of. So basically, I feel like this was something that Necropolis had said at some point. Just how, especially DS9, will go through periods of time where the files just get too full and it needs to be reset.
Oh,
So,
that's not a reset. That's backup cleanup.
okay,
A reset is like when we say we're moving from season 4 to season 5.
gotcha. I thought that was a
That's why I
restart.
thought that was the heading for the modded SMP resetting.
No, it's like its own kind of little thing, and then everything. I have
Okay.
it in the full extended version. Prevents buildup of data that slows servers down. Basically, just having a set schedule to
Oh,
go through and do that, and not just waiting until the server
we
starts
actually we
crashing.
actually need to reinstall the operating system on 7 of Mine. That
Exciting.
is Yeah, that's part of the reason that I haven't automated a lot of things that need to be done cuz um I actually need to do a full operating system upgrade on that, and the best way to do a full operating system upgrade on Linux is from scratch. So I basically need to schedule a weekend when Corinne isn't here for the server to be down for up to 48 hours. Probably like 8 to 12. But no, I need to that's going to be its own whole thing. And I was kind of waiting to schedule that until I saw if I wanted to see where Hermitcraft landed on its season length, because if our season length was short enough that I was like, okay, well, we're going to be wrapping the season up in September. I don't have to do this in June. I can push it to September, but it looks like we're probably going to go through 2024. So there's no clear place to be like 7 of Mine is going down. But don't worry, 11 of whatever is going up, or Deep Slate 9 is going down for 2 days, and then we'll bring up the new world with the new operating system on the server. So I'm gonna just have to do those things out of sync with each other. So that's what that is. Let me see. In some ways, I keep saying I would do it on a weekend, but in some ways, doing that the week that Corinne is gonna be at her science camp might make the most sense. Let me pull up my calendar here. Just a quick poll in chat. If DS9 had to go down, you know what? Here, this is what we'll actually do. We'll put this in DS9 ops. I need to schedule a operating system upgrade for DS9, which could cause downtime of between 8 and 48 hours. The 48 is like if something goes catastrophically wrong.
Right.
Worst case.
Nuclear case scenario.
Unlikely. It should be like less than 8 even. So
Right.
I'm gonna say between 4 and 48 hours. Realistically, there's no way it takes less than 4, but it should take less than 8.
Just
If
covering
something
the
goes
bases.
wrong, though, if it's at the point where I'm like, I'm so tired, I need to step away from this and go to bed, that's 16 hours now.
Right.
And then if I'm like, oh, or something goes wrong where it's like we need somebody in the data center to, hey, there's a problem with this driver or something, like we need to swap out this Ethernet card or something stupid. I need to schedule an operating system upgrade for DS9. Could cause downtime between 4 and 48 hours. Would y'all prefer that to be on a weekend or midweek? I feel like a midweek is actually better in terms of the data center tech availability.
I'm gonna agree that midweek is gonna generally be best overall, because a lot of the time when we have our parades and other events, it is on the weekends anyways. So most of the time, that's when people are looking to play, or like the days in before that. So scheduling it midweek, if people are either at work or school or busy otherwise.
Yeah, I'm thinking May 30th is gonna be, because then I don't have any dedicated streaming time.
I like Kindle's putting his comments
Tuesdays.
in there without you putting your question, because now he just looks insane a
He
little
says,
bit.
"I vote for the time when customer service is available." Yeah, you know what?
Time.
gonna be more available. I'm just gonna put that we're putting this on the schedule. Um, that is currently slated for May 30 through 31st. Pin message. Yeah, pin it. Okay. And so we'll want to mention, Tommy, can you make a note that we'll want to announce that in the newsletter separately from the minutes of the meeting?
As we go.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, yeah, make sure that gets its own, like, header in the thing, because that's pretty big. Okay. So yeah, that's the because server 1 needs the reset more, because it's running an older operating system than server 2.
Right.
So, server 2 we're good for probably another year or two at this point, but we'll schedule that when we get to it. Okay. Let's see. What have we still got? Is that all for that on the agenda item?
For that item, yes, I'm pretty sure that's the bulk of that. The next item we have is ToxxicGlitter's modded SMPs set to restart in June. We don't have an official date set for that yet, but the things Toxic did want me to note is that this will be a shorter season. He's aiming for a lifespan of around 3 months. He is still currently taking suggestions for features, and you can put that in modded feature request channel down in the modded SMP category. He's currently leaning towards the create mod. If that sparks anyone's interest or disinterest even, you can feel free to discuss it in that channel. And he also plans that after this shorter season ends, there will be a longer term season for Minecraft version 1.20.
Okay. So I'm gonna send him a note real quick. Toxic, I'll have time to update the modded server either on June 1st or June 13th. But we'll be busy with family stuff in between. So please try, because I don't have Corinne for very long over the summer, so I really don't want to schedule a server upgrade and launch in the middle of that. So please try to target one of those 2 dates for the upgrade for the new server setup and testing and launch. So please try to target one of those 2 dates for as a deadline for sending me what I'll need for the new server setup. I can also do June 20th in a pinch. Okay. So we don't have a set date for that yet, but we're definitely going to have that. I would prefer to have it June 1st, but I don't know if the modded stuff Toxic wants to build is going to be ready.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, then the next item is going to be Yirggzmb Vanillish SMP. She is going to be updating that to 1.19.4. I'm sure you and Yirgi will be able to set a date for that to happen. This is just kind of a notice for folks, although it has also been mentioned in the Vanillish channels. So anybody who plays on that server should get ready to update your launcher.
Okay. So, what else have we got? I've got a bunch of hermits who have... We were supposed to have a call a half hour from now. We were supposed to have a call next week. and then they moved it to a half hour from now, and now they want to move it to now. So this is,
Wow, love that.
yeah, this is how everything on Hermitcraft works. Everything, all the time, every
Ouch.
time. But we're gonna have more fun stuff for you. I'm really excited about the actual subject matter of the call. But it's just like, oh my gosh, you guys, can we not just keep moving stuff at random? It's like, well, I'm free now, but I won't be. Oh gosh, come on. Okay,
Well,
pick a
we're halfway
time.
through the agenda. We can get through
Let,
this
yeah,
together.
let's keep going. So I only missed the beginning of that meeting,
All right.
which is not y'all's fault, and I
No.
don't want to penalize you, but like, oh my gosh, yay,
Everything
Hermitcraft.
else should
Okay,
be pretty smooth. So now the rest is just reviewing the Discord. So the first item for the Discord half of the agenda is just a general overview, real quick. Do we need to remove any channels we have since gained within the last 3 months? Has anything become redundant, unnecessary? For example, the Players Wanted channel. I personally love the Players Wanted channel. I think it's a really great idea for us to have it. I do feel it's currently underutilized. I would love to see folks use that more just because I want folks to know if they want to be playing like Mario Kart or Animal Crossing or Gartic Phone or anything. You don't have to wait for a community event. You can just say, hey, I'm playing this game. Does anybody want to join us? And it doesn't have to be immediate either. You can schedule like, hey, maybe I want to start a D&D group every Friday night. Or, ooh, next weekend I think I'm going to be playing Quake? What is it? I don't know. The fun games.
Quake, yeah.
So,
Well,
this,
and I will say that for me, I tend to use that channel or stuff like it more over the summer when Corinne's gone. So I feel like we leave the channel, um, you know,
I'd like to leave it
and
open just to see it get use.
yeah, and once I start encouraging people, I'm hoping to schedule some more Pathfinder games over the summer, stuff like that. Like I said, it's just hard to schedule when Corinne's in school because like, since COVID is like tapering off or the government's treating it that way, there's a lot more extracurricular commitments and things at the school that they want the parents to attend. So I have not been as available as I was during the pandemic, just for that reason alone.
Right.
But um, I definitely am looking forward to over the summer having some stuff scheduled to hang out with y'all. Okay, gosh, these Hermitcraft calls. Okay, sorry, they keep sending like, "Are you coming?" It's like, no,
I
I
don't
told
think
you.
there's any
I,
other channels that necessarily are on like the chopping block or anything. Maybe a feedback channel or so. There's so many. There's so many and there's not enough because they're all hyper specific. So sometimes it's like, okay, what I have to feedback on doesn't quite fit into any of these channels, and then nobody knows where to actually put it. So maybe we need a feedback otherwise unspecified.
I think we can move. We can. I think feedback cheaper Minecraft. The subject is closed there because the person who was offering to
Right.
sponsor it in the first place ended up leaving the community or being banned from the community. So, which really just illustrates why it's dangerous to let one person offer to
Influence.
pay. Well, it's not even influence. It's just like the person's like, well, I could pay you the equivalent of upgrading everybody from $5 a month to $10 a month. And it's like, in theory, I'm making the same amount of money, but the problem is that's a single point of failure. And so I'm going to consider that cheaper Minecraft thing is now closed. So I'm going to move that to the, what do you call it? Forgotten Rooms or whatever. Yet another zone of archived rooms. Um, Anything else there that's actually like a closed issue? Accessibility is ongoing, creative's ongoing, emojis ongoing, Everstorm's ongoing, newsletters ongoing, map build contest. Map build contest is that was in order to figure out how to spin it up,
Right.
and we've done that. So that's going in the Forgotten Rooms. Yet another zone of archive rooms. Okay.
Saturday readings
Uh,
is currently not being used, but I know you're going to do more readings in the future. So do we archive it now and bring it back from the dead later?
I think we archive it now. We've got enough feedback that one of the big problems is for a lot of the upcoming Saturdays. Or I have more Saturday stuff than usual because we're getting to the end of the school year
Right.
before Corinne leaves. Where like family is inviting us to stuff, and I really need to take her to spend time with them. And Okay, we have actually maxed out the category yet another zone of archive rooms.
Oh no, we need another category.
So we need another category.
Extra zone of archive rooms. But it's
Well,
like
it
with
has
an
to be
X.
after SMP.
With an
Uh,
X. TRA.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a good one. Create category. Extra zone of archived rooms. I didn't even know categories could max out until we started having this problem.
We discover new things every day.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna move Saturday readings down there.
For the next time we need another category, we can go, wow, more archived rooms.
Edit category, and I'm gonna make sure that these all have send messages disabled, send message into threads, create public threads, create private threads, input links, attach files, add reactions, use external emoji, use external sticker as mentioned, anybody read message history, yes, because it's an archive, and we need to hit save changes. Okay, so now we can keep moving stuff in there. Feedback sponsorships. I'm gonna have my first sponsored stream in the next few weeks.
Do you have any
It's a game that I've already been playing for years, and I think that's a good thing. But it might not be. So I want to keep that. Well, I really don't know. Like, I like. Here's the thing: is like if somebody's like, "Hey, we'll give you $20 to play this mobile casino game," I would say no because I say no to stuff like that all the time. But it's like,
especially for $20.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, here's a cool game that you like that you can play as part of a thing with your friends, and you'll all get paid. And maybe we'll screw it up, and I need to hear how we screwed it up and how we can avoid that in the future. So we're definitely gonna keep that. Text only channels. I think we've gotten enough feedback on that. That's going in the zone of archive rooms. Feedback vacation mode. Vacation mode went well while I was in England, or the server went well without going into vacation mode while I was in England. So I think we're gonna consider that something that we might use it depending on how things are feeling before the honeymoon.
Right.
But for the most part, it feels like the only cases that we would be super likely to use it right now would be if the entire staff or if too much of the staff was going to be attending the same event, right?
Right.
So the idea is if we've got 3/4 of the staff all at PAX East, like, and I've got them like working, helping with the booth, that sort of thing. I don't necessarily want them putting out fires on the Discord at the same time, you know? So in cases where the entire staff is deployed, essentially, we might set the Discord to read only because I can't guarantee this, quality level of safety that people expect. But that's like a pretty extreme case. I don't anticipate any staff reductions anytime soon in terms of finances. I had been paying for some stuff out of pocket, like guest judges for the build contest streams and the a lot of the game nights I was having the staff host. I was kind of paying for that out of my freelance development revenue as just kind of like a, hey, this is a cool thing and I'd like to pay for it and have it, happen. But it's not necessarily something that we weren't making that money back, and that money that revenue is gone from the freelance work right now, and I haven't replaced it yet. So the current staffing levels with the current level of staffing involvement, we can sustain indefinitely. But if something were to happen and we had to cut down on the number of check-ins or something like that, at that point we might consider coming back to vacation mode more aggressively. But I feel like where we're at right now, vacation mode isn't really necessary in 99% of the situations we originally envisioned it for. There's still a few rare cases, like I said, everybody's at PAX helping load in for a convention, something like that. Yeah, we might have vacation mode, but short of that or my honeymoon, I feel like we're in pretty good shape. Um. Okay. So let's keep moving. Ba, 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 ba.
Okay, so
What do we got?
then the next topic is going to be additional channels. We do have the channel suggestion and feedback. More
Okay.
channels. The only suggestion we got is from Fally. It is for a debate club channel. He says current events is great for discussing politics and events as long as they are current, but it would be nice to have somewhere for the more serious political, religious, etc. discussions without having to resort to other channels where people purposefully want to avoid those topics. Fally says
I.
he's Ooh.
Oh, go on.
Fally says he's personally someone who has a lot of interest in these discussions, and it would be nice to have a dedicated space for it where you don't have to worry about disrupting other discussions, bothering people, or with it having to spend a lot of time wondering if it's current enough. We have 14
Yeah,
checks.
I feel like that's the sort of thing that requires more active moderation, and more guidance from me to the moderation staff than I'm willing to commit right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a good idea in the long term, but especially because like seeing how distracted I've been the last couple weeks with everything happening here in Nashville, I see the
Right.
value of a space like that, but I don't feel like I'm the right person to run something like that right now. Like I'm looking at like I'm 3 weeks behind on my last video or on my next video. I'm uh, trying to juggle a lot of stuff around town, trying to connect with people here. Um, I think it's I like I don't know how. Yeah, basically I feel like to some degree we already accommodate this by having the spaces, which Felly acknowledges, to discuss certain topics like current events and stuff. Um, so it's not like there's no room for debate here. But I feel like saying if I open a space called the debate room, that has like special expectations or rules, I'm committing to kicking that off and then managing it and setting the tone for it in a way that is going to require a commitment of time and energy that I could not plausibly give right now. I feel like that is worth. I think we revisit that this fall. I think that's where I am personally. Um, like I just and maybe if there was like a clear, I don't know. If there was something more clear about like what is considered debate and like what's allowable and what's not allowable, how hypothetical can you get without being obnoxious? Like, uh, I feel like we'd end up having to adjudicate 1,000 edge cases on this to get it going, and it's probably worth doing, but I don't think I could do it now, and I don't think it would be fair to you and the rest of the staff to say, uh, you guys make Fally's idea work because it's a good idea. Kindleist writes that channel could very easily require near constant moderation. Yeah, I feel like um it's exactly the sort of thing that I'm like, this is what we should be doing. I want to do this, but I need to look at just the number of hours in the day and where I'm at, and I'm not there. I'm not like I've had to face a lot of my limitations lately, with like hiring this immigration attorney and stuff, where it's like there's all sorts of stuff I think I should be able to do that I'm not, and uh this is one of them. And especially like I said, we're at a point where I can sustain the current staff check-in levels and stuff financially, um but I I would not feel comfortable committing to this without also setting aside like $200 or $300 a month for the first few months of just having the staff deal with problems. Like, we might run into problems here where then it's like, okay, well now, because like the other thing is when we run into certain classes of problems, like we'll bring in, like we brought in Joanna Blackheart, who is an accessibility consultant, to talk to us when we were having issues around the accessibility feedback. We brought in Keegan Osinski, the author of Queering Wesley, to help us navigate some concerns around kind of elderly Christians trying to communicate positively with gay youth, and how that gets weird because it's like, even if their hearts are in the right place, there can be some linguistic or historic or dated ways of framing things that create problems. And how do we moderate that in a way that's positively moving the discussion forward, right? Because moderating in a space like this isn't necessarily just, we're going to ban you because you're posting a link to um, like illegal pills. It's We're trying to create a good positive discussion space, and that requires thought and assistance and guidance. And I wouldn't have, I could just see this, I could see this spiraling too quickly for me to manage with my current attention level. um Fally says this can also be resolved by me retracting the suggestion, since this was something I personally wanted and I'm no longer here enough to warrant its necessity. Okay, well, next problem then. Okay, I'm good. It's not like I got a bunch of hermits going like, "Are you sure you won't be done until the hour?" It's like, guys, you're the ones that keep moving the meetings. Like, boundaries. Okay. Um. So let's see.
Next is
Additional emotes.
yes, emojis.
Ad Astra wants a Joe with hearts.
A
Vin
lot of
wants
these
a
are ones that I've specifically already have images posted. Not all of them, but if you go into feedback emoji, there are some user submitted images as suggestions for your perusal.
yeah. Okay. Uh, I don't. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, these sure are something. Um.
I'm a fan of Joe now, I have to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Okay. So I feel like adding the Joe with hearts, the Jono, and the Dahlia fan art of me with the green wig. The other two fan arts are too close to photographs of me that at that scale you wouldn't be able to tell it was drawn. Whereas the green thing is like different enough from like, because those the pictures of me, the David Pumpkins picture and the me looking in the distance, are like two of the most iconic things on my Twitter that people retweet and stuff. So like, people be like, why do you just have your Twitter picture but it looks blurry? It's like, no, somebody hand drew that based on my Twitter picture. But you can't tell at that scale. So um the other hermits suggested by Joju, we're definitely not going to do that. That gets into a weird um like, the hermits all kind of try to mutually respect each other's brands in a way that gets, some people are sensitive about different things, right? And so let's say that I added icons for all the hermits who were cool with it. Then people are going to be like, "Wait, how come you didn't add an icon for this person?" Right? And that puts them in a weird place.
Right.
So in a lot of cases, there's stuff where it's like 2/3 of the hermits are fine with it, but 1/3 isn't, and so we just don't do it, right? And so yeah, that's one of those things. Like, I'm sure some of the hermits would individually be fine, but if I was like, we're gonna add all the hermits who are cool with it, that puts it in a weird thing. I'm not gonna say we would never add anything from any other hermit.
Just not as a whole.
But doing saying like, here we're dropping all the hermit emotes, that's not going to happen realistically. Right. That would make some hermits deeply uncomfortable, and most of them would not care at all. But it just got to be respectful there.
Yeah.
Mahi Zero suggests pogs. I don't, once again, this kind of gets into like, once we actually, so we kind of put the pogs thing on hold. Because I forget what happened. Something happened, and the Pogs thing. Basically, we missed the deadline for getting the artwork to the printer in time to have it for Chicago Pinball Expo anyway. And then I was like, well, that was the big one I wanted it for. That or Texas Pinball Festival, which was just in March, and I couldn't afford to go because it was kind of like the London trip was right there, and that was a lot. So yeah. So there's no real urgency for getting the Pogs printed at this point. They'd be nice to have at PlayOnCon, except for the fact that everybody either just got out of the pool or has like a drink that's what's that word condensing? Like
Condensation?
yeah, people constantly have wet hands or like cans of cold beer in their pocket. Like you don't want to give somebody a piece of paper at PlayOnCon, like or cardboard. Like that's like with the exception of like in the board gaming room. That's like, but yeah, like people are constantly just don't have dry hands there. That's so it's not like people are especially if the ink comes off on your hands if they're wet. People are gonna be mad at me, and so I'm like I don't want to deal with that. But
Fair.
yeah.
So do
Play
we
on
have
con
emotes that
problems.
we're saying yes to?
Say again?
Well, do we have emotes that we're saying yes to?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Joe with hearts, Joe no, and Dahlia's Joe fan art are yeses. The Pogs thing we'll come back to when we have Pogs because I love the idea of having a emoji of the Pogs, but we don't physically have them yet. I want the emote to be like I can kind of see it in my head, and I know how I would shoot the picture, but I don't have the physical object to photograph.
Gotcha.
So Mahis, that's a provisional yes. Pog tint pending. So I was that. What else do we have? Roles and a bot to manage them.
Yes. This is just to summarize. There was discussion in the.
Fally says, as the Photoshopper cursed artist of the Jono, I give my explicit permission to use. Oh, also, I wasn't necessarily going to use the exact art they provided.
Those are just like suggestions,
That's just
not the
that.
actual
Yeah,
ones to be used.
Yeah. Those are. Yeah,
Except for the
I was
Dahlia
looking.
fan art one, obviously.
The Dahlia fan art one is like we're literally going to use Dahlia's art, but yeah.
So there was brief discussion about possibly having roles on the Discord to help like see categories or not, and having a bot to manage that. I'm already familiar with your stance on that, but I feel like it's worth just reiterating that during the meeting so everyone else can be familiar with that.
I mean, it feels like well, for one, okay, I don't understand though when the person brought this up. What are they trying to accomplish with the roles? Because I don't like the idea that people here are necessarily like categorized by their level of support.
Oh, no, that's not what they were suggesting. They were suggesting something much more useless, in my opinion. The way they were suggesting...
Tommy, you're the community liaison. You're supposed to advocate for these people. And I'm supposed to be a good boss and not call you out in front of everybody, and I just screwed that up, so I'm sorry.
I mean, in my opinion, it kind of was just really a bad suggestion because there's already essentially a built-in feature for that.
Oh, okay.
Also, this person was banned, so I don't really have...
Oh, is this the guy that was speedrunning, getting banned in all the Hermits?
Yes.
Oh, man, this guy got banned in so many Discords so fast. No, he was intentionally... No, he was just trolling us. Never mind. That shouldn't even be on there.
I mean,
that
but I feel like we
okay, you do not have to advocate for this guy. Yeah, never mind.
That's why
You're
I'm
absolved. You're absolved. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
but yeah, I was going to say, like, just from a language standpoint, like, saying, like, this is a bad suggestion. Like, you could say, this is maybe a weak or untimely.
No, it's bad. And it was intentionally bad, so...
Mahizera says, how many Discords did he get banned in? I think so. He's up to like 15 or 16 at this point.
Yeah, at least half. Definitely more than.
Yeah. And I was like, the thing is, when he first came in, I was looking at it, and I was like, well, a lot of the stuff he got banned for isn't technically against the rules here. Like, other Discords are really strict, like, you can't talk about this, or, you can't talk about that, or blah, blah, blah. You're not allowed to criticize friends of the streamer. And I'm like, look, if you want to come in here, if my friends are wrong about something, I'm not gonna tell you you can't talk about that. Like, because
See, but
if
the
my
thing
friends,
is, this person was definitely trying to get banned from all of the discords because they weren't breaking the same rule in Discord.
they were breaking different. Yeah.
Right.
So that was the thing. I said I'll give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe all these things he was just not a good fit for these other discords. But this is a place that's more welcoming, more accepting. No, he immediately does a bunch of stupid stuff and wastes a bunch of our time with some dumb Discord bot suggestions with roles. Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good. Okay, yeah, that guy's gone. Tommy, are we good to close this out? Do we have anything else on the agenda?
That's the last item on the agenda. I do just want for clarification. The only bot we have is the mod mail bot. That's so people can submit mod mail tickets to us. We at this time have no desire to have any other bots added, regardless of where it comes from. As Joe has made his stance pretty clear that if it's not made by him, we don't want it. Pretty much, and he doesn't
Yeah,
have the time or
basically.
resources to dedicate towards making bots for the server. So
Yeah. And the mod mail bot is more of a business tool
Right.
than a fun bot for the server.
Right.
And also if the mod mail bot went away, there are ways that I could replace it relatively. I could code a replacement with a form on a website.
Right.
It would be annoying, but I could do it. The biggest thing I'm worried about is creating, like, if I add a bot to the community that creates some sort of functionality that we could never get otherwise, and then there's a problem with the bot, and then it like breaks the community. We want to stay as close to bare metal vanilla Discord as possible here.
Because even if we lost the mod mail bot, this is something that can be achieved even with like emailing, we really had to go bare bones for that.
Yeah. So okay, yeah. So I'm and yeah. I think that we are ready to wrap up. I've got a bunch of other hermits that still want to talk to me, which is nice. I'm glad that they didn't finish their whole meeting in the first 25 minutes after moving it last minute. Which, once again, not you guys' fault. That's just how this stuff goes. So, anyway, I will catch y'all later. Thank you again, Tommy. And Tommy, don't forget, please call me Monday morning for the newsletter call during the it won't be like the normal newsletter call we would do for like 90 minutes straight while I laid the thing out, but like definitely like maybe be ready for 5 to 15 minutes of banter. Don't prepare any puns in advance.
Dang it! That was my. I had a whole. Bit.
You had a whole thing.
I had a whole thing. All right, fine.
Well, you're gonna have to save it. You're gonna have to save it for the next next
parade.
Comedy tour parade thing. Alrighty, catch y'all later. Thank y'all so much. This has been a relatively short quarterly meeting because we didn't have a lot of new business. I really do think we're gonna have a lot more clarity coming out of the summer, and I think our next meeting will have some more decisions and directions to explore. So I am looking forward to that. Alrighty, catch y'all later. Keep adventuring.